Scott, there's a question we hadn't thought to discuss when we were prepping for the show, and I just want to get your take on it if it's okay. Um, and it's really around the staffing sector. So I started in the staffing sector tail end of 2006, right? So the staffing sector, I think at that point, started in London, had moved really from, couriering CVs, faxing CVs to, I think at that point, emailing CVs, VMSs, vendor management systems were available then, applicant tracking systems were available then. But when I started, of course, I started at the bottom, right? And that's what I love about staffing, right? It's a meritocratic profession whereby if you're good enough and you make companies enough money, you send up the ranks, right? Now, of course, that doesn't always mean that you should be the CEO, as I found to my cost, right? When I did become that, I wasn't ready, didn't have a clue, right? And rightfully got what's the phrase, shit canted. Anyway, that aside, uh, but I suppose what I wanted to ask you about, for me, I always felt that the sector, Scott, was ripe for disintermediation, and I always compared it in my mind to the financial services sectors, which in the 1980s in Chicago and London and New York had what was called its Big Bang moment. They moved from essentially a people-based broker trader sales-based system where you would execute an order with the person. He or she would then relay it to the next person, and the deal would be done. And then they moved to computers supported by people and vice versa. And that was the Big Bang moment. And of course, it launched a 40-year expansion period in financial service. But it strikes me that the recruitment and staffing sector hasn't had its Big Bang moment. And perhaps it might just need that in terms of disintermediation, because we've seen so many talent platforms emerge. I think I've lost track about, there must be a couple of thousand at this point, probably more. You've got behemoths like Upwork and freelancer.com and so many others like it. And it strikes me that the sector's open and ripe for disintermediation. What's your take on that, Scott? Because I know you've been in the sector, or at least adjacent to it, for quite some time, like myself. Do you think it needs a Big Bang moment, or maybe there has been and I just have bloody well missed it?
Well, I hope you weren't just calling me old as you just jumped into that, but yeah, it's fun.
No.
No, and no, no, no. I well, let me give you my thoughts again. I'll get this. These are just my opinions. All right, so I'll get on my pulpit here a little bit about the industry. I believe the staffing industry is a bit schizophrenic right now. And what I mean by that is there have been, in all my years of doing this, every, I'd say every decade, there are a couple of things coming down the pike that were supposed to be complete, a complete disruptor in the staffing industry, which never came to pass. Right. So the internet, when that first came out, I'm an old guy, so I was in this business before the internet existed as a portion of this when we were still faxing stuff back and forth. It was a very different world. And when I seen the internet come in, I'm like, oh, it'll be helpful, but it's not really going to overly change our business. And then everyone's like, oh, it's going to shift it. Now recruiters are going to change. Everything's going to be different. There was an adjustment period, but it really didn't fundamentally change things. And then you had, you mentioned the freelance platforms, the Upworks, the others. There's also been new technologies that have come in. When VMS first came in, they're like, oh, they're going to do away with the staffing world. I've had the good fortune to actually have launched one of the first VMS tools that were web-based way back in the day. And I've launched another one just 10 years ago. So I've had a lot of experience with technology coming in. Again, everyone's worried about how's this going to change? How's this going to change? Well, then the industry adjusted, and it's very pliable. One thing about the staffing industry is it's extremely resilient. And so I've yet to find anything that's really going to be a disruptor until now. Okay. And what I mean about until now, disruptor really is going to be AI. And AI is not going to do away with the business, but it is going to make the staffing industry a hell of a lot more efficient, and it's going to change the role of the recruiter a bit. It's going to change the role of the presentation and process format a bit. It's going to enhance things. It will be a disruption in some ways, but also be a big disruption in a positive way, in my opinion, to the bottom line of staffing firms today. The overwhelming majority of the industry is made up, 80% of the staffing industry in North America is made up of firms under $50 million in revenue. So with that, they live and die by, cash at hand, right? Everything's about how do I pay, bill and pay today because cash is king in those type of environments. So anything you can do to enhance your business in a more cost effective way, utilizing tools like this, which I think AI has that capability to really do some different things for the staffing industry, is going to make them more profitable. Um, so I think it'll be both a bit of a disruption more than some of the other ones were. We will adjust to it, but it'll also be a major financial positive, I think, for those that embrace it the right way. So to answer your question, yes, the industry stagnated, but I can tell you we're also resilient. COVID scared the heck out of a lot of staffing firms immediately. They're like, "Oh my gosh, what's going to happen?" They're like, our clients, everybody's on site. We're going to lose all of our headcount. You know what happened? The pliability within the staffing industry adjusted, absorbed. Enterprise clients said, "Oh my gosh, roles I thought I couldn't be virtual are now virtual," and the world kept moving forward. There was an impact, obviously. Everybody had a couple tough years, but it rebuilt infrastructures for the staffing industry to be a lot more flexible, which is what I've promoted for 20 years, is figuring out how you create a scalable model that can scale up or down very easily without disruption. That's what I build, are those type of modelings. And that's another reason why I came to CXC is with our platform, we can do some really cool shit. And I believe we're the best in the world at doing it. So that's why passionately, I think we've got a secret sauce everyone says they have. I think we really do have one. It's not secret in terms of service. I think it's in terms of what we actually provide. I think it's secret in terms of the way we engage. Engagement is different today. Customers want to feel like you're listening and creating a customized solution for them. So staffing firms out there listening to me, have some creativity in what you're doing. For us as a total talent global solutions provider, we need to be more consultants and not productized. That's what's going to make a difference in the world today, in my opinion. The US is at the forefront of some of the most unique kind of solutions that are being developed. And I think that'll carry through the rest of the world.
I love that, Scott, and that is such an amazing analysis, and I love your views on the market. That AI piece, wholeheartedly agree, will disrupt the sector, because I often thought, Scott, that the recruitment sector is in a way an imperfect market. Like most markets are imperfect, and oftentimes the best recruiters are able to exploit those inefficiencies in the market, right? Because they have the access to the talent, they have the best database or the best relationships or the best network, and speed wins, right? Speed of getting that best person at the best time to the client wins. And for me, I think AI can bring transparency to that process and speed to that process and increase the matching elements of that process. And I think the advice that you have for staffing leaders is bang on, spot on.